This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
Yeah, I mean, you did mention a certain person there, Kai Havertz.
Who?
Again, controversy after the game. Why is he starting Mikel's quotes about his wife and you have to go, you have to message, and in the end it's beautiful. You know, Kai Havertz is getting defence from Arteta, but there's a lot of Arsenal fans at this stage that are like, listen, even the ones that are backing him going, he might come good, he hopefully will come good, but at this stage he doesn't deserve to start. That's what they're saying, and I kind of agree with it as well, to be honest. I think he's not really showing me what he should do to start this game, especially when you see the performance of Vieira, who we'll get into in a bit. But what do you guys think is the next step for Havertz? Especially George, like, do you think it's sit on the bench? Because I personally thinking, I think it's time to take him out of the limelight. Because right now, a lot of pressure on his shoulders. Everyone's looking at him going, score a goal, do something good, make a pass, get a penalty. Like, he needs to do something, and right now it's not working for him. And the little things like the scuff shot against Man United, it's just the whole going against him and winning a penalty, but it not being a penalty, not quite being a penalty, despite other penalties that are much lighter being given in the past as well. And things are going against him right now, so I think take him out of the limelight. It's time to see Arteta protect Havertz as a person and the player. What do you think, George? What do you think is the next step for Havertz?
It's difficult because I think if you wanted to describe Kai Havertz's time here at the club, it would be almost the opposite of what everybody feared is happening. So what do I mean by that? When he first came in, there was concerns out of possession in terms of his ability to really operate in a block, in terms of his ability to collect second balls, and his ability to really meet markers in a press. Things that he's all excelled in and more in his time since here, but it's actually the in-possession qualities, the stuff where he receives in space, turning on the half turn, the facilitation of our forwards, that left-hand side looking a lot more static when he is on the pitch. And then, of course, when he is in those positions to score, we see the brilliant movement, we see the movement in the box, but his efficiency in the box and those actions, and it's not just this miss over here. It's not just the miss against, the Community Shield when he is found in the box. It's just those final actions are not coming together for him in possession. And there is going to be a balance that has to be made. You know, for me, he's approaching that line of being asked to be benched. There is a certain level that you have to balance as a coach where you see the confidence of a player and you see whether or not you kind of have to give them enough rope to hang themselves with. In a sense, that's what you do as a coach, because you can't just take them out for no reason. There has to be a little level of kind of, I'll give you the platform, but if you don't respond, meritocracy has to come in. I will end on this. I feel as though that this upcoming game against Everton is something, ironically, that you might question the replacements in, because the people knocking on the door, i.e. Vieira, who's had two very big cameos that have been excellent, you do wonder against an Onana type of midfield at Everton and that kind of, the physicality that's involved there. Do you want that with Vieira in the next game? That's something that I question, especially if you've got the alternatives don't really have the same out of possession competency that Havertz does, but they're going to give you more on the ball. So then it becomes that question. Do you need that sacrifice? Is it worth it? And especially, is it worth it for this next type of opponent? I don't know if it's as soon as Everton, but personally, I'm leaning towards the opinion that Kai Havertz is not proving enough on the pitch for what we bought him for to justify his starting position being untenable. It certainly should be questioned. Doesn't mean you banish him, but he hasn't been performing to the degree that we know that he can. And it's getting a little bit ridiculous. Like, I think it's getting worse. That's the key for me. And the one question I had on Twitter that made me really start to think about this was, who gives you confidence and momentum? When you've got the ball right now, does Fabio Vieira or Kai Havertz give you more confidence on the ball that something's going to happen? That, for me, is kind of the non-negotiable, especially when you look at a system right now that is dominating more teams, that is generating such high possession, field tilt numbers. We need to ask more of our interiors in possession. And right now, there are other people that have asked more questions and have carried more momentum. I just don't know if Everton is the game for it and for that change. But yeah, I'm kind of with you, Bhavs, where I'm approaching the point of I think he could use a spell on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, look, that wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. That's not me saying I've given up on Havertz. It's time to get him out. Let's not forget that when Martin Odegaard came into the team initially, he was on the bench for the first 2-3 months. So if Havertz is as good as Mikel Arteta believes he is, and he is on the bench, he'll be good enough to break into the team. This is a good test of trying to build some character, trying to actually earn a place, because then if he earns a place into the first team, fans are more willing to back him as well. You look at Fabio Vieira, it's not like he's just been thrown to the first team and fans actually back him now. It's because he's come onto the pitch, he's made an impact, and now fans go, oh, now I see what you offer. Now I see what Mikel sees. So in terms of Kai Havertz, Alex, What do you think he has to actually offer? What do you think he's been brought in to offer? Why do you think Mikel Arteta is so, he backs him so much? He backs him, to the death. He's like, this is my player. I bought him in. £65 million is his second most expensive signing. What is it about Havertz? What does he actually offer Arsenal? Long term, maybe not right now, but what he will offer Arsenal to why Mikel Arteta is signing him in the first place. Because Mikel's got great talent and ID. We've seen it with so many other players. So fans, they're thinking there's a reason behind it, but they're not quite sure what it is. So what do you think it is, Alex?
Well, if you told me we'd be sat here with, as George mentioned, the opposite problem in September, the one we signed him in July, I'd have been thinking, how? Because my main concerns with him were under contact, were meeting his marker, were blocking lanes, were intensity in the press, all these things. That's not my concern about Kai Havertz now. So we've seen the other side of his game. We know that that's there. It's just about eking it out of him. So I think eventually we could end up with an all phases, people hate this phrase, Rolls Royce of a midfielder. I really think we could. He could do absolutely everything if he's put in the right environment. I think right now he isn't quite in the right environment. That can come from relationships, that can come from within himself, that can come from just developing, that can come from coaching, that can come from all sorts of things. But right now I don't believe he's in the best environment to do his best football, which is partly his fault. I'm not trying to admonish him as well, but I don't think right now he's playing his best football. So now it's about how we manage that. And that's a big question. I think this is one of Mikel's trickiest periods with a specific single player that I've seen him go through. Because Granit Xhaka wasn't his signing. Ben White, the expectations actually weren't as high as they are now. Martin Odegaard, similar. So, we're at a point where we're trying to win a title and Mikel has to manage the expectations of a lot of people that are a lot higher than they used to be. So it's a real difficult period. But what I would say is this. There's certain players, Ramsdale is one of them, who, if you put competition in front of him, his eyes light up and he goes, I want to win. But good management and good people management and being a good leader in any aspect is understanding that different people need different things. George struggles with technology. I'm not going to ask George to host the stream. Do you know what I mean? But George is a brilliant tactician.
That was very specific.
We have different strengths, right? We have different strengths. So it's learning how to, just calling you out, George, it's learning how to deal with different people's different abilities. And I think with Kai Havertz, I wonder whether the best thing to do with Kai Havertz is to back him and back him and back him and back him and let him play through this. It might cause some stress. It might cause some problems. But I think if Mikel says to Kai, look, I believe in you, that might get the best result out of Kai Havertz. Everyone wants the same thing, Arsenal to win. It's just the question of, right, so you want Kai Havertz dropped. I hear that, and I don't think he's been good enough. The question is, how does Kai Havertz get from point A to point B? It's not the same as Ramsdale. It's not the same as Fabio Vieira. It's not the same as Bukayo Saka. Kai Havertz might have to play through this, go through all this, and come out the other side with the full belief of the coaching staff, because he might need that, and I sense from an external perspective that he might.
Yeah, I mean, but you talk about the environment. Systems important as well. I think George has mentioned it quite a few times by now. 3-1-6 diamond. I think that is the place to go to right now, isn't it? Because Havertz right now,
or swapping the eights.
Yeah, swapping the. But do you guys think that he will swap Martin Odegaard's position? Will he move his captain over to accommodate Havertz? Because I agree that Havertz is probably better on the right hand side. I think I looked at his touch map at Leverkusen; it was mostly on the right hand side. So the angles are different on the left hand side. He has to get used to it. But George, playing that 3-1-6, is that something that you'd go to against Everton? And do you think it'd work against them as well?
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.